Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here for the One Art Times Keystone Poetry Anthology reading. And today we have with us the co-hosts, or the co-hosts and co-editors of the Keystone Poetry Anthology, Marjorie Maddox and Gerry Wemple. They'll say a few words about the anthology before we get started on the reading. I just wanted to go over a couple things before we get started. But again, thanks everyone for joining us. We do have 12 readers, so everyone's going to exclusively be reading their poem from the anthology, and that should keep us going at a good, steady pace. I want to say that for my piece, I've said this before in other places, that this was a real bucket list thing for me to be in the anthology. I absolutely loved the first anthology, Commonwealth. In fact, I was looking for it before the event and couldn't find it and realized that I must have given the last copy of it I have away. Oh, Marjorie's holding one up because it's one of those books, in this case anthologies, that I definitely bought repeatedly and then gave to people as gifts because I wanted to share it because it's just tremendous. And so I had it in my head that if there was ever a follow-up, I really wanted to be in it, and it was a great joy for me to have a poem in it. And so, yeah, I'm so pleased to get to be with everyone today and to have you hear, or rather hear you, read your poems out loud. So let me now hand it over to Marjorie and Gerry for a moment.
Okay. Marjorie, do you want to say a few things first?
Go ahead and I'll follow up.
Okay. Well, it's great to see everybody here. Some of you I know, some people I met more recently, and some I don't know. But it was a real it was a lot of work, but well, 5 years worth of work to put this anthology together. We probably read between 700 and 800 poems, I think. It was quite a few. Um, And it was good to have 5 years because if you remember, as we were starting, then the pandemic hit, and that sort of messed a lot of things up, including at our publisher, Penn State Press, where the editor that we worked with left in the middle of the project, and we lost a bunch of files. And so we had to redo everything, all these things when you're involved in anthology or journal or bookmaking, and you find out like, wow, here are the things that can go wrong. But it was, it was really great to, put things together. And what's really cool is since the book has come out in May, Marjorie and I have gotten to go around the state and meet a bunch of people out. Since school has started, and I'm in the middle of the semester, I haven't gotten to go to as many during the week, but just to meet the people who were part of the anthology and people who this sort of organically have said, hey, why don't you come do a reading here at my school or the library in my community, and traveling around. And then also, as we have today, a couple of virtual events that where we can include people who may not be able to, like they're out of state or whatever, or just want to join in virtually and open it up to a different audience. So we're pleased to be part of it today.
Yeah, and we're just very grateful to you poets, not only for your stellar work, but the enthusiasm that's happened after the anthology came out to get all of these readings started and implemented and spread the word. And as Gerry said, I think we've already had like 10 or 12, and I think we've got another 10 more that are scheduled. And every couple weeks we get another email query about, is it okay if I host something, and that's really exciting. I mean, that's the best thing that could happen to kind of bring people together to build on the community of the poets in the anthology already, and also spread the word to other poets in the state. We're always learning about new poets. I'm always thinking, oh, I wish I'd had this. Oh, gee, I wish I'd had this person in or whatever. So it's been wonderful. We have 182 poets, 181 poems because one is a collaboration between father and son. And as you know, it's ordered geographically, and that's what we're just continuing on with the tour. So thank you very much, Mark, for having these virtual readings. So it's been great.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, both Gerry and Marjorie. Couldn't have said it better. So why don't we get underway? Our first reader, so like I said, we're going to be going alphabetical, and hopefully I have this ordered correctly, so just tell me if I'm messing it up. So I believe our first reader is going to be Joe Chelius. And as noted, I'm going to be dropping bios in the chat to kind of expedite, and with the page number of where it appears in the anthology. So Joe, you can take it away.
Okay. So I'm listed there as Big Marge. I'm not Big Marge. I'm Joe Chelius. Just thought I'd point that out. So my poem is it's called Half Ball, and it's on page 26 if anybody wants to look at it. And it's about the street games that city kids played when I was growing up in Southwest Philadelphia in the 1960s. Half Ball. Redfield Street, Southwest Philadelphia, 1960s. In the soggy grass, I found it sprouting like a mushroom. The inside rank as a sewer or an old shell that brought me back to the makeshift diamond on Redfield Street, home of Flat and Frank soda's can, and the crowd sitting out on row house steps, kid brothers, fathers after supper, smoke drifting from Pall Malls and Lucky Strikes as the stars came out to take their warm-ups, boys with broomsticks and plastic bats, swatting bottle caps like fungos, or playing long toss with a pair of sneaks, dangling them over a telephone wire. When the games got underway, how seriously they comported themselves, striding like big leaguers, assuming their heroes' stances in the middle of the street. Tony Taylor making a hasty sign of the cross before slashing a single into a flower bed. The cleanup crew of Callison and Allen, clearing the bases, sending pitches off awnings onto flat roofs. The runners tagging telephone poles, the fire plugs, holding up traffic in the fading light.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Joe. Joe
You're
always has
welcome.
these great poems from sort of harken back to like another time back in the day, growing up in like the Kensington section of Philadelphia. And I don't know, I just love the feeling of these poems. They really are great poems of place. So I wasn't clear. I didn't have Susan on my list. Susan, were you expecting to read?
No,
Okay, she's shaking her head no.
I
Okay.
can, but I'm not expecting to.
Yeah, if you would like to, I think we will be good on time. So yeah, if you want to go for it.
Lovely.
What page is your poem on?
Oh gosh. I'll have to check.
Mark, there are
It's-
two Susans. Do you know which one?
Excuse me,
Oh, I just saw there are two
Susan
Susans.
Weaver? Are you talking to me?
No,
Susan
I was talking
Weaver?
to Susan Eisenberg. Are you also expecting to read, Susan?
Now are you talking to me?
Yes.
No, I wasn't invited, and actually I'm not getting the emails about
Oh.
these things, which is I'm gonna have to email somebody and let them know that.
Well, we'll work on
But I
that.
found out about it from Ann Michael, who's a friend, and I am in the anthology, so I wanted to at least listen.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Yes, we have multiple Susans and multiple Gerrys in the room. We're just trying to make it as complicated as possible. So Susan, did Susan Eisenberg, I should say, did you locate your poem? No, now you're muted.
Susan Weaver is in the anthology, but Susan Eisenberg unfortunately isn't.
Oh, she's
Oh, well,
not. Okay, so we've
Thank
all.
you, but no, I'm not. I just wanted to hear the
I'm so
reason.
sorry. So I was
No
thrown
worries.
off by the chat. Okay. So let us move along then. So our next poet is a wonderful local to the. I feel like I don't know. I like to say local to the Philadelphia area, but Grant Clauser. So Grant, please go ahead and share your excellent poem, which is on page 45.
Hi, Mark and everybody, and thanks again to Gerry and Marge for doing this. My poem is A Map of Valley Forge. Dug in among mud and farmers' fields, the new country's army licked its wounds, and you can hike among the scars they left, from raised redoubt mounds to the 3-century witness tree bending by General Maxwell's adopted quarters, now a site for luxury weddings, past General Wayne's statue before he became Mad Anthony, who took a beating at Brandywine, then gave it back at Stony Point, earning himself a medal. So when my dog and I topped the southwest trenches, where recovered cannon pointed toward the patient British, eating Philadelphia like a 3-day leave, while Washington's men battled dysentery and a farmland too poor to afford a war, I think about how optimistic the settlers here once were. Like even now, when a sunny day in winter brings all the brightly colored joggers out of seasonal depression, the trail map of Valley Forge shows both Mount Joy and Mount Misery, but doesn't tell you where to begin. Thanks.
I love that poem, Grant, and you just do an exceptional job at making a poem, with some historical, educational elements without making it preachy, which I know is super hard to do because I used to write a lot of didactic poems in my 20s, and they were just annoying and pretentious. So when you see it done well, it's really something. Also, as a fun side note, and Grant is someone who can speak to this if you want tips on good trail walking and hiking in the Pennsylvania region. I saw recently on All Trails that the Mount Joy Trail is often considered the best trail, at least in this part of the state, but sometimes all of Pennsylvania, which is something because we presently live 8 minutes away from it. So pretty cool. So thank you so much, Grant. Next up, we have Gerry Connolly, and Gerry's poem is on 213.
So I'm not muted, right? I don't have to do anything. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I was so worried about getting here on time because of the time change and because I live in California, but it worked out. I'm so happy to be here and to see everyone. Thanks for your good work, Marjorie and Gerry, and thanks for hosting Mark. And I will read my Praying Mantis poem. I grew up in Westmoreland County, and I was at Hillcrest Heights Elementary School, and this is set in my 3rd grade classroom. River of Mantises. I watched a jar once erupt into a river of mantises. A blousy afternoon, grade school, Pennsylvania. The sugar-spun egg case hung inside a jar from a twig. We stared at its blankness. Then, suddenly, there in the middle of math class, asleep over multiplication, we woke to a jitterbug of foaming bodies that bubbled up from the hardened froth into a pale volcano of sticks with giant ivory eyes. All those bodies poured out of the jar down the windowsill, scampering over books and crayons onto the floor. When someone opened the door, we all streamed, a tangle of jumping legs, thin arms, into a field to watch the mantises tumbling into the green. We followed them, the tiny soothsayers, prophets of possibility. We went to follow their hunger into the wild, devouring world.
Wonderful, Gerry. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hard to argue with a good mantis poem. What I can't help but bring to mind now, I don't know how much I'm supposed to share this story, but it's just truly wonderful, is my wife Louisa, consulting editor for One Art. Her dad likes to leave his car windows down. I don't know why people do this, but some people just do this. And at some point, I guess a mantis got in there and laid eggs, and so he like went into his car to discover it was just filled with baby praying mantises that had to be, gathered and, relocated. So I don't know, I think it's kind of an amazing image and probably a fun experience. Anyway, I love seeing praying mantises. They're so, I don't know, otherworldly.
Right?
Yeah, they really are, right? So thank you so much. Our next poet, sorry, I have to go back to my list here. Our next poet is Brian Fanelli from the Scranton area, where my father grew up, and Brian lives out there, and it's Joe Biden country, and those are the three people that I'm aware of. And I guess the American iteration of The Office takes place in Scranton, so that's probably what it's best known for now, as opposed to the historic labor union movements back in the day. But we'll let Brian fill you in on that. So Brian Fanelli, his poem is on page 106.
Thank you, Gerry and Marjorie. It's a pleasure to do one of these readings again, and thank you to Mark for hosting, and it's great to see everybody. I haven't seen some of you in a while, so this is very nice. The sky above my house on Jeweler Avenue is pregnant with inky clouds in early March, blizzard of 93. I'm snowsuit yellow, 2 rubber boots, gloved hands. I'm waist deep in walls of white, red-cheeked with chapped lips. I'm pulling the frayed string of a toboggan and then zipping down Prospect Hill near Weston Field. I inhale the bite of late winter, suck cold into my lungs, raise my fists into the air because I did it, conquered the biggest hill. I spit out a mouthful of snow and then lugged that trusty sled home. I retrace my path, still unplowed, as children's laughter echoes in the nip of night, like a cocksure army cheering victory, claiming the neighborhood, at least for an evening, until the inevitable roar of snowplows and salt trucks come morning.
Excellent, Brian. That was a great reading. Thanks so much. Just before we got started, there was a brief conversation about basically climate change and do we get those snows anymore? And will we in the future? And I guess to be determined. So next we have Jan Freeman, and Jan's poem is on page 34.
Oh, thank you. And I love being here with everyone, and I just absolutely love this anthology. This poem takes place where I grew up in Westchester in Chester County. At the crest of the meadow, there's the Liberty Bell, there's the home of the flag. Where is the pledge, the allegiance, under the sycamore's bark? Where is protection and safety inside the arms of the barn? Here is the Brandywine River, here the terns and the branches, here the Lenape remnants under the houses, the roads. Here the bones of the orchard, here flow the ashes in currents. No one expected the stone walls to collapse on themselves. Regal and shining the floors, The opal sky mirrored the windows. Slate roof, Dutch tiles, brown and blue, wedged free and split from the frames. Down spun the wind through the kitchen, Quaker hymns dusted the silence, sweeping the meadow, the stream, holding the fox in her den, twisting the hay through its mold, hypocrisy painted on ceilings. Underground railway or myth, here's the shape of a shoe. Here the locks turned from the keys, here the teeth smoothed each rough edge. My home, this serpentine town, watched as the house fell down.
Wow, what a reading, Jan. Serpentine Town. Yeah, that makes me specifically think of Gerard for some reason. But I really love the sonorous aspect of the repetition of here. Those lines just really, it really gets into like sort of a trance-like rhythm. So beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
And next up we have Robbie Gamble, and Robbie's poem is on page 130.
Hi everyone. I'm just so thrilled to be part of this anthology and to be part of the One Art community now too. And I just thank you to Mark and Marjorie and Gerry for all that you do for poetry. I know it's hard and often unrecognized work, but you all do so much. It's a joy to be here. So I was born in Philly, and two of my kids went to CMU, so I've crisscrossed the state a lot, although I really haven't lived in it for most of my life. And this poem came out of one of those crisscrosses. It's called Tioga County, PA. Roadkill, deer carnage everywhere, a half-skinned badger skeleton, canines askew. At the Burnin' Barrel Bar, big ball-capped men push back on stools with surgically repaired knees, licking their chops at the new big screen crop of pro fantasy rookies. Bridge construction on Siesta, the transports sigh and heave on the gravel lot outside. Behind the bar, a bank of bourbons flanked by stars and bars and a terrible towel. North out of town toward the New York line, a parish billboard proclaims, "Don't wait for 6 strong men to carry you into church." Thanks.
Terrific, Robbie. Thanks so much for being here with us, and that was a great reading. Loved it. All right, so our next poem, our next poet up is Lynn Levin, and Lynn's poem is on page 42.
Hi, everybody. Mark, Marjorie, Gerry, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm astounded by the talent and the beauty of this anthology. So my poem is a ballad, and it is based on a true crime story. Sleepless Johnston. When the city lights came on and the air turned gray, Sleepless Johnston finished filing through his bars and ran away. He flew through Pennsylvania in a green hot-wired Olds, left a dummy on his cot, made of prison clothes, had coins to call his cousins and marathon running shoes, the gifts of a nurse who loved him or wanted some of his loot. Johnston, they said, had millions tied up in high-tech stocks or hidden away in Cayman banks or stuffed in a cardboard box. But maybe he had nothing left and was after black revenge, was weary of doing life in jail and had to go home again. He dreamed his mom would fry him eggs, let him bathe and sleep, a good long sleep to die for on daisy-covered sheets. But Johnston was a menace, a thief, and murderer as well. He shot 3 young men at least and killed a teenage girl. 40 grand the lawmen promised, a price they swore they'd pay to any soul who'd help them catch this cunning runaway. In a tavern a trooper saw him, having a smoke and a beer, but sleepless fled like a vision of Elvis when the cop came near. Oh, there were plenty of sightings, though most of them were fake. Line workers called in phony clues for Slippery Johnston's sake. He haunted all the payphones, begging cousins for a bed, yet most hung up when Sleepless rang. At last one kinsman said, "The law has us surrounded. You can't come over here. Keep running, man. Wing like a bat or hide like a deer." But after 20 years in jail, familiar woods were few. Developers had subdivided the countryside, he knew. Patrol cars right behind him, in front the rising sun. Johnston dashed down a cul-de-sac. Folks called 911. No dogs, no guns, no searchlights. Only rest and peace were the things that Sleepless wanted as he walked to the police. And gave up by a bird bath, exhausted, nearly dead. Sleepless held out his 2 hands for cuffs, some chow, a bed. He hadn't any millions, just his pants and shirt, and those fancy track shoes, and the lost hope of the nurse.
Amazing, Lynn. That was a great reading. It has me wondering how many, sort of clearly, distinctly formal verse poems appear in the anthology. I don't know, Marjorie or Gerry, if you have a vague sense of the number there, but I can't imagine that there are a ton. But very cool to see some well pulled off formal verse. So next up, we have one of our co-editors, Marjorie Maddox. And Marjorie, I don't have the page number on hand, actually.
It's 125.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
And I was just going to type an answer to your question. We did make a point to have some formal verse in there, and then we included questions and writing prompts about, specifically writing in villanelles or pantoums or ballads. So it was great to have a ballad in there. So this is a poem that I introduce as both a Philadelphia poem and a Williamsport poem. So those of you from the Philadelphia area will probably remember Monet Davis, who was the pitcher for the Philadelphia Tanny Dragons in 2014 for the Little League World Series. And of course, Williamsport is the Little League World Series capital. I mean, it's where everything takes place. So she was a huge draw that year. She wasn't the best pitcher, but she was good, and she was a girl, so that created a lot of buzz. And the inspiration for this poem comes from overhearing 2 little t-ball boys arguing over who got to pretend to be Monet Davis. Throwing like a girl. 70 miles Monet style, fastball, curveball, flashing into the future ball, every which way but losing. Batters up, so we chant, Monet, Monet. Awake, sleeping, warming up for the life we're stealing in this home run of a series we call team, we call you go girl. Braided phenom with an arm that hurls hope way past today's whirl of photo ops and change-ups, all the way to a close-up of 2 t-ball boys playing the part, debating, voices escalating, I'm Monet, no, I'm Monet. And a summer of daughters leaning into the pitch that blasts the phrase, throwing like a girl, into the all-star compliment that it can be, that it is. When lean machine Monet takes the mound, smiles as wide as a long drive, then delivers the dream we braided girls of baseball, basketball, soccer, business, science, writing still need in whatever and every season. Thanks.
I love that, Marjorie. That's a great reading. And it's so inclusive in a way that in a style that I feel like is very poet laureate style. I don't know, something to talk to the poet laureates about, but it has that kind of vibe to it. And what would the anthology be if it didn't talk about, you know, the Little League World Series being in Williamsport? So important that that's in there. So next up, I believe we have Amy Small-McKinney, and Amy's poem is on page 32. Amy, you're still muted. Oh,
I
there you
got it. Thank you so much, Marjorie and Gerry, and of course, Mark, who's quite miraculous. And it's great to see all my friends here. This poem was written when I moved from the unwalkable suburbs to the Northwest Philadelphia area of Chestnut Hill. I was just finishing my treatment for cancer back then, and was finally able to take walks. And this was the perfect town to move to because I could walk through the town. Walking toward cranes. The crane reaches to a red wood railing. What is he doing? Nothing below him but 10,000 villages, wooden benches, the sun aslap, everything else quiet. Inside, I know there are sequins sewn on fabric. On paper lamps, fish swim toward an ocean. The crane turns out to be useless. The operator inches his way down. The window ledge will have to wait. Later, I notice it's gone. The balcony gone. 4 iron S's left with nothing to secure, nothing to protect. Long-necked iron lamps bend to the door I enter. This is the world. Blue-green glass from the West Bank, mindful pillows with strips of satin leading to its ocean of a button, an anchor for stitch branches, songbirds from India. I want to travel, probably won't. I want to walk into a village where a woman weaves yarn, squat beside her, not condescending, not sentimental, but because I am lost. Thank you.
Wow, what a killer poem, Amy. Really amazing. Really puts you in the place, especially if you know the place. Definitely spent a lot of time in Chestnut Hill, frequently, frequently still. Yeah, I used to go to that 10,000 villages with my mom, so it's sad that that one disappeared. As so many things do change over the years, right? But yeah, beautiful poem. Okay, so our next reader is Anne E. Michael, and Anne's poem is on page 81.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. It's good to see everyone again. So speaking of things that change, that's really what this poem is a lot to do with. You know, I'm currently worried about getting nematodes in my backyard beech tree. The emerald ash beetle has done terrible things to the ash trees in my region. And before that, we had the hemlock stuff and the chestnuts of the early 20th century that are gone. So, and all of that is an environmental thing that those are invaders. But then again, so are we. So that's what this poem is. The invader alters everything. I killed them, the spotted lantern flies, beetle-like, bright red, and blotched with black and white in their 4th instar stage before they reached true form. Their moth-like adult phase, winged leafhoppers prepped for reproduction. I stopped them from flight, from sex, from passing along genetic strands that could result in many thousand future insects of their ilk. I called the state agricultural department, reported entomological findings, hoping to learn how to avert infestation of vineyards forests, my own backyard. But what I know from both experience and metaphor is the invader alters everything. We must accept what we resist. There is no going back.
Wow, really a great and thought-provoking poem. Yeah, I remember that period where we were just overrun by the spotted lanternfly in the Philadelphia area, at least greater Philly area. And then strangely, I mean, they've really, for the most part, disappeared out here. But recently, I was in Western Maryland and then in Pittsburgh, and they had tons of them. So I don't know, there's only about 6 hours west, and that seemed strange that they were out there but not here. So mysterious. All right, so next up is co-editor of the anthology, Gerry Wemple. And Gerry's poem is on page 97.
Hi again, everyone. This poem, the only thing I think you need to know about it is it's set in the 1980s, Wilkes-Barre. Each day you buy the newspaper with pocket change, scan the classifieds in the back, circle a few to call. It takes a little while, but you catch on. Joey, a stoner metalhead kid who works in the office, makes it clear when you return from not viewing the third just rented of the day. He phones the numbers you called and they all say, "Come over, still available, a nice place, especially for the money." You are still young. 2 years at a college that didn't fit, so back home you find a decent job for the times, which were hard all around. But it's near an hour's drive each way, so you look for an apartment. Nothing much, just a place to stay during the week with winter coming. Thinking it over, it is all obvious. The older woman who spoke through a cracked door, the knock that no one answered while a man sat watching in his car across the street, the woman who says her husband just called. Their friend's kid is looking for a place. "Sorry about that," she says, turns her back, and walks away. Your mother always urged you to get an education. It's something no one can ever take away from you. That was true, regardless of what she meant. By then, you'd learned some lessons. Mostly, you did not have to study on them too long. Your world was small, and like an Amish horse with blinders, you stared straight ahead, kept following a narrow road. Then you began to enter bigger worlds with harsher lessons. Standing on those porches in early November, the wind coming on, you wondered what they saw. It took years before you saw yourself, a half-breed kid born in a coal town orphanage. It doesn't matter all that much now. You've done well enough. You worked that job for a year, about as long as you could stand it. You tired of having your sub-shop order taken after everyone else in the place, of the clerk eyeing your license plate through the convenience store window like you were going to run off with $5 worth of gas, of people asking if you worked in the supercenter market when you were wearing street clothes like them, not a blue smock and a name tag. A couple of months after you left, in the worst mass murder in the state's history, a mixed-race man from that town shot and killed 13 people, including his own 5 children. He said he wanted to spare the kids the affliction of growing up half-caste. His sole trial defense offering was that the racism of the town had made the man insane. You wondered which slur it was that made him shake off lassitude, cause mad ire to rise and burn. When you read the newspaper account about the man and what he did, you were saddened but not surprised. The weariness had begun to close upon you.
Powerful, Gerry. Thank you. And I guess let everyone know you wrote a book not long ago that further investigates your childhood right?
Yeah, you can see it from here. Actually, I'm another Scranton person because the orphanage I was born in is in Scranton. And but that poetry collection came out about maybe 2 years ago now, but it talks about my life and trying to find out who my birth father was.
Yeah, really powerful. Thank you, Gerry. So next up, actually, Susan Weaver, since you're here, would you like to read your poem? You're muted. There you
Hey, thank you. Hi. Thank you. I really have enjoyed, it's a wonderful anthology and I'm thrilled to be in it and I've enjoyed reading all the other poems. This poem, and this poem is on page 84. It's called In the Allentown Shelter Kitchen. This is based on a true story. I worked at a shelter for victims of domestic violence for 12 years. But it's told from the point of view of one of the shelter residents. In the Allentown Shelter Kitchen. It's weird. After midnight, everybody else in bed, we're talking about Charlie's death threats. The other girl and me. She goes, take them seriously. He might do it. Like when that guy on 12th Street strangled his wife and their 2 kids. I remember in the papers that brick row house, yellow police tape wrapped around the front porch like his extension cord, squeezing life out. It put the fear in me. Then in the kitchen's quiet, we hear a thump. A silvery thing rises up. We feel a damp chill hang there, like the spirit of the shelter, warning, believe it. I still got the creeps this morning. Guess it takes a while for something to sink in. I don't waste time looking in the mirror at this shiner here. Yet I wonder about the house on 12th Street. Did his eyes get mean? Like Charlie's? Did he ever say in a flat voice, I wish you were dead. Right now, if you were dead, I'd laugh. And did she let it in just a little at a time?
Wow, thank you for that reading, Susan. That's powerful and disturbing. And what it's really reminding me of, and I know a couple in the people in the room definitely knew this person well, was Kathleen Sheeter Bonanno, who wrote her book "Slamming the Door Open" about the horrible thing that happened to her daughter. Her daughter was murdered, and yeah, there you can find, there's a lot online about it, but I'm gonna put in the chat a link to when she was interviewed on NPR. But yeah, Kathy was wonderful and sadly died far too young. But pivoting, last but not least, we have Martin Willitts Jr. Martin, would you like to read for us now? And your poem is on page 68.
Thank you for inviting me. I actually have 2 connections to Pennsylvania. My great whatever was a Quaker that came over with William Penn. And he eventually moved up to where Rome, New York is now, and became a fort commander. When Herkimer died, he became the land commander for a period of time. So he's the person that The Last of the Mohicans is based on. So my other connection was every summer I would come between the ages of 5 and 17 to work on my grandparents' Amish farm. And the only place you could say that was nearby was Bird in Hand. That would be the post office box that you would, and then they get the mail. So I did all these hard things, and I have another full-length book that came out about my grandparents and my experience of working with hand plows and blacksmithing and working with looms and all kinds of weird things that most people never do. And I can't stop writing about them. So this poem came after that book as part of a thing of I couldn't stop writing about my grandparents. And another thing I need to say is my grandfather hardly talked. He could talk, but if you said 2 words, that was 2 words too many. So this is about my grandfather. My grandfather counted the stars. The cows clang in Lancaster County's faltering light. Grandfather checks once again the back fence line where winter always brings intruders wearing vests with pockets for shotgun shells and carrying wire clippers to hunt illegally on his prime forest land stocked with deer. He cleans his glasses to see into the future, to see he won't always be around to prevent the inevitable. The silent weight of his Mennonite life is weighed in invisible scales. His good intentions against the odds of his age. His glasses recall the 2 robin nests, their tiny babies begging to be fed. A noisy world is edging nearer. He feels people taking pictures. He wants his old farming ways, leading a plow horse, trying to keep silence close as suspenders. He lingers a while, both well into the splurge of stars and cricket burst. Grandma watches him approach, a leaping lantern light bobbing over the uneven rough fields in a cloud of fireflies and miller moths. He returns, dew-drenched, creasing his way, ruthlessly stamped with a fiery spirit, thumping into his wooden chair. Because the cricket music stirred his eyes. He warned the deer in the back acres before the hunters could find him. Even during the Depression, he never found a day bad enough that he couldn't be overcome by hard work, reflected prayer, and determination. His glasses still contain images of robin nests. Days always begin and end with cows following the same worn down path. His way is the hard way, the old slow way, a horse pulling his buggy on the side of the road on his way to bird in hand, while the anxious drive past him. He counts the familiar stars, like baby robins count on being fed, like glasses need to see clearly the end of sadness, like deer testing winds, like crickets warning of more heat, like the lifeline in his palms. Prayer is always there. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Martin, for that terrific reading. And I love how that takes us to really a different part of Pennsylvania that I suspect a lot of people who live in certain parts, certain regions of Pennsylvania don't really associate with the state I might think is more of something you'd find out west, or more like Midwest, maybe. You know, certainly there's a large Amish population in Ohio as well. But I'm personally a big fan of Lancaster County, which I tend to call Wyeth Country. And I mean, I loved the time that I spent out there, and I love getting to visit out there, and it's just beautiful, beautiful
I
there.
painted many hex signs on barns in that area, by the way.
There absolutely are, yeah, yes. I had I had the joy of living for 8 months in a very small town with a population under 500 near the Susquehanna River in Lancaster County. And life was different there. It was definitely a lot slower, and it was very, very peaceful. So fond memories. But you know, I guess most Western folks probably don't like having to drive, 15 to 20 minutes to the laundromat and the grocery store. And yeah, it's hard to find a balance these days. But let me pass it over to Marjorie and Gerry if they'd like to give a few thoughts on the outshot. Thank you again to everyone for reading and for being with us. Marjorie and Gerry, upcoming events associated with the poetry anthology.
Well, on this coming Thursday, if anybody's in the greater Bloomsburg area, Marjorie and I are going to read at, there's a group called the River Poets. And so the two of us are going to read. So we'll read a little bit from this anthology and then a little bit from our own works. That's it's in the Bloomsburg Town Public Library at 7:30 start time. And then I know there's a slew of other events coming up.
We're having a reading on November 20th at Eastern University, so kind of back in the Philly area, St. David's. There, as Mark mentioned, there are a number of virtual readings, January, February, and March, from Word to Word. And then also Robbie Nestor is hosting one in her series. We have a reading scheduled in March, at the end of March, at Grove City College. It's new, and one in April at Ursinus. And Gerry and I are also reading and talking about the anthology in Gettysburg in May. And I may have missed some in there, but we keep
There's
getting...
one at Bloomsburg. I think
Oh,
it's
yes.
April 11th. I can't remember, but it's a Thursday. I think the second Thursday in April at Bloomsburg University. And that one I haven't yet started to get it organized, but that will take place on campus that day.
Yeah, so their Ursinus one and the Bloomsburg one are back to back, so that'll be fun.
Wow, it's nice to hear there's so much higher ed support for the anthology.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That's been great.
All right, well, I'm going to stop recording.